Today on Techsplanation, we unpatch video over IP. So turn off Spotify for a minute or two, because Techsplanation starts right now. So we get a lot of requests for video extenders, and there are a lot of choices out there. And most of them use category networking cable to connect two boxes or to a matrix so you can extend a video signal between two places. But this is not AV over IP. I mean, just because it has a network port or uses Cat5 cabling, it's still just an extender. AV over IP is when we're using the network switch to move the same video signal across the room or across the building. Now, this is the same network switch that you get files from your peers and stream YouTube videos when your boss isn't looking. Now, with the right box connected to the switch, you can also push live video and audio across the network and watch it from anywhere in the building. Now, keep in mind, this isn't video that's going over the firewall, out to the World Wide Web, and then back to you via YouTube. This is video and audio that stays entirely in the confines of your in-house network. This could be digital signage, live video from a meeting, or even live TV. Your network switch allows you to have the video signal in as many places as your network reaches. The switch replaces the AV matrix and becomes your distribution hub. And most AV matrices have limitations in size and reach or the size of the video. Your network switch, however, has no limitations and can grow bigger. Now, let's look at the differences in the types of IP encoders out there, because not all encoders encode in the same way. In fact, there are different types of encoders and each have their value and their use case. Now, the difference is in the codec they use to encode the video. The most common encoders we see on the market work by taking your video and converting it to a data stream and placing it on the network. H.264 and JPEG 2000 are probably the most common codecs you're going to see in these, and each of them have their pluses and minuses. H.264 doesn't need more than a standard gigabit Ethernet switch. It squeezes the video down small enough to fit in the available bandwidth. However, in order to squeeze it, you have to give something up, and first is typically latency. That's the amount of time lost in the process of the encoding of the video to the time it shows up on the screen. Next is quality. In order to make it smaller, you have to compress the image. H.264 compression is also known as lossy compression, meaning you have to lose something in the process of encoding. And this is typically done in the color space or bit rate, and it's rarely noticeable. I say rarely, as there are times when you will see the data loss, say on a big screen or a jumbotron. JPEG 2000, on the other hand, has less visual loss, but uses more bandwidth to achieve the quality. And let's face it, somebody's going to notice that. Latency in both of these versions will depend on the quality of the encoder being used and the chips inside the box that's doing the encoding. Now, new to the scene is SDVoE. This stands for Software Defined Video over Ethernet. Now, with SDVoE, there's little to no none of the compression that we talked about before. Your content encodes uncompressed. So there's no chance of artifacting or the image getting degraded as it goes across the network. However, maintaining quality comes at a bandwidth cost. 10 gigabits of bandwidth to be exact. These encoders require the use of a 10 gig network switch. Now, the good part is network switches have come down in price and are much more affordable than they were a few years ago. And most 10 gig switches can use fiber or copper cabling. And with fiber, you have the ability to extend the signal beyond the typical 100 meter limitation found in copper network cabling. Now, encoders aren't the whole story. You need a destination. And this is the time to choose which is the right encoder for your project. So consider this. What is the content you want to share? Is it live? Is it digital signage? Is it television? If it's live content and you're in the same room or auditorium, you should consider a system with low latency. I mean, you want the video and the audio to match up on screen, right? Okay, so if it's content that's going to be on a large format projection screen or a video wall, you should look for an encoder with low or no compression. I mean, it's got to look good. Now, if it's digital signage or live television, content like that, you should look at encoders that have receivers with remotes or control panels. You want to be able to change the content on the fly, and you need an interface that allows the viewer to make the same changes. Now, there are lots of choices out there, so it's best to call a friend or an integrator and ask them what they've used and what problems they came up against. There are also settings that need to be changed on your network switch. So if you're in a large organization, I would enlist the help of your IT department, or at least call them and warn them you're putting video on the network. I mean, they're going to find out anyway, especially if you're encoding 4K video. Now, if you need help, call us. We've tested and employed a bunch of different versions that can help you shorten the learning curve. All right, look, that's our show for today, but do me a favor. Before you go back to your Spotify trial, Can you click on the follow button? I mean, my bosses won't let me make any more of these if we don't get more viewers. All right, we'll see you next time on Techsplanation.